Hey guys, what's up, and welcome back to the channel, and today we're going over the new cards for Legends of Runeterra. So today they came out with 5 new cards for Legends of Runeterra. This is sort of a theme. It seems like each day they're going to release 5 new cards for the set. Maybe every other day coming out, probably every other day coming out with new champions. With the cards coming out on the 26th, we're nearing the point where they're going to come out, and pretty soon we're going to actually have these cards in the game. So we got to go over them, right, and talk about the theory craft and all the things that these cards are going to introduce to the game. So let's get started. So first we have the new champion, Lulu. Lulu is a 3-mana 2/3 that states support. My supported ally becomes a 4/4 this round, and her level up is our allies have been supported 3+ times. Lulu herself, when she's leveled up, states that round start, create a fleeting help pixie in hand, and my support ally becomes a 5/5. And of course her stats go up to a 3/4. The help pixie card that she creates at the beginning of each round start, once she's leveled up, it's a 1-mana burst card that can't be cast in combat or in response to a spell or skill or anything like that. But it says, give an ally barrier or an enemy vulnerable this round. So this is like the gem where it can be cast and won't take up an action, but you can only cast it on your action. And the idea from this card is just to either target your ally and give it barrier, or target an enemy and give it vulnerable. So Pixie can either save one of your allies and make a support ally able to attack even if your opponent has a big dude, or if you want to kill their big dude, you can give it vulnerable and attack with maybe the Lulu supported ally, which becomes now a 5/5. So I am super impressed with the Pixie card. The Help Pix card, I think this is insane. For 1 mana, giving an enemy vulnerable is sort of strong. I mean, especially if you have Lulu in play, which can then make an ally a 5/5 and kill that pretty easily. But giving an ally barrier, I think, is so strong. And I think that for 1 mana, this is just broken. And it can target your ally if you're playing like a Taric strategy or an Arbiter strategy. Lulu herself is a 3-mana 2/3 that makes an ally a 4/4, probably giving it +2/+1 or +1/+2 or something like that. When it comes to the actual stat line, if you have like a 3/1, what's that card called? Reckless Raider, something like that. The 3/1 tough. This can actually make it a 4/4 tough with Overwhelm, which is really strong. The fact that Lulu's stats are only 2/3 means that by turn 3, when you're playing her, your opponent's gonna be able to play a 3/3 for, there's plenty of 3/3s for 3 mana, and you're not gonna be able to attack with Lulu, which means that unless you're in a very specific matchup, she's going to have a hard time being able to attack. And that's going to be a big struggle. Like, she reminds me a lot of Warchefs, but with a bigger support. But since her body's small for her cost, she doesn't actually get the same value as a Warchef's. Actually less. Which might surprise you because of the 4/4 stat she gives an ally. But that just sort of seems weak. Since she can level up in the deck, she says our allies have been supported 3 times, not that I've seen allies be supported 3 times. You can actually just make her a 5-drop in the deck and play her turn 5 once you've supported your allies enough to level her up. I mean, 3 times is not that much. And then once she's leveled up, she now becomes a 3/4 with the Help Pixie card, which she can give to herself, meaning that if you actually want to attack with her, you can give her the barrier and make her, basically untouchable that round. Or you can just attack with her if you're going to finish out the game that way, and if you have enough attackers. So she seems like a very good mid-range card for the support strategy, which I love. And then her champion spell is Whimsy. So Whimsy is also another card you can play, but this is also her champion spell. It's a 4-mana burst card. Transform a follower into a 1/1 squirrel and silence it this round. So this reminds me a crap ton of Will of Ionia, but it has a couple of different it's a more situational card because it is 4 mana for the similar effect to Will of Ionia, except it sort of it only makes the creature 1/1, right? So it doesn't kill it or return it to hand like Will of Ionia did. Will of Ionia basically countered it, right? Or killed it, in a sense. Now Lulu's Whimsy doesn't unless they've attacked with it. if they're smart and your opponent knows you might have Lulu, or they might assume you have a Lulu in play and are like, we don't want to face that Whimsy, then they won't attack with it, or they could have a combat trick that would save their ally. So this card isn't an outright, recall or a kill. It transforms into a 1/1, which means in a lot of cases, it's not going to have the same impact as Will of Ionia. So Will of Ionia back before it was nerfed would be 1,000 times better than this card, especially because this card can't target champions, which if you're in a champion meta where like a big champion or just any champion really is like a Tarek is giving you trouble and is the biggest threat in the meta, this card is not going to be in your deck. But when comparing to Will of Ionia, the fact that this card is burst speed, burst speed doesn't matter that much. It does matter in a couple situations where they can react to the spell or, deny it, although deny has not been played since Will of Ionia has been nerfed. I mean, I'm sure that some Ionia deck is going to come out of this new meta, and with Bastion and Deny both in the meta, I think that this burst speed is going to matter a lot more than most people are giving it credit for. But the fact that it doesn't outright kill the ally means it can either buy you a turn or it can kill the ally if it's in combat, which is a great counter to mid-range decks. But the fact that it doesn't kill it makes it worse than Will of Ionia. But depending on the meta, I think that this is going to be a great card, replacing Will of Ionia if the meta is very creature-based and very attack-based. This is a combat trick, not a removal spell like Will is. The fact that this transforms a follower into a squirrel means it's going to be more likely used in the combat than before the combat. So I definitely think that this card has less implications than Will, or even another combat trick like Repost. It still is a very great card for Ionia, and I definitely like now that we have a choice between Will or this card. Lulu overall has super impressed me so far. I mean, not even just the Whimsy, which is her champion spell, which is great, but Lulu herself, that help picks, I think, is amazing. Lulu making an ally into a 4/4 has a lot of strength, is very strong and has a lot of, uses, and it's very strong. And so I'm excited to play around with Lulu, especially. Knowing me, I like mid-range the most, and so this champion is definitely going to be for me. But we have 3 other cards to talk about. So in the image you're seeing, there is a squirrel. That belongs to Lulu's Whimsy. If you were wondering, it is a token. Next, we have Pix, a 1-mana 0/1 with support. Give my supported ally +2/+1 this round. I think this card is bad. I wish it said grant. If it was grant, this card would actually have a lot of implications and could actually be used in some decks. The fact is, it's like a War Chefs that gives 1 extra attack and costs 1 less, but has a 0/1 in stat line instead of a 2/3 stat line. The difference between 3 health and 1 health is huge. The attack on this thing doesn't matter, it's the health stat. 1 health means it can be killed by basically anything, not even a spell, but on the attack. If you're attacking with it, your opponent loses no value killing this, and taking 2 extra damage, potentially 2 extra damage, just that turn. Like, this becomes a 1-mana deal 2. That is like a mystic shot that only targets the face, and that's just not what this card wants to be. This wants to be a support mechanic that can be used. But 1 health means it's not going to be able to attack turn 1. Turn 2, if you're on the attack, it's not going to be able to attack without dying immediately, unless your opponent has no board. I mean, this card has basically 0 implications because it dies so easily, and that just makes this card so bad. Fey Guide is a 4-mana 3/3 that says play grant an ally elusive. So I actually like this card. Basically, it's a 3-mana 3/3 that you're forced to play on turn 4, and you give an ally elusive permanently. When you were comparing it with Ghost can do it for 1 mana, and then you basically are almost always winning that turn. Fey Guide is never going to be used as a good mid-range elusive card. It's always going to be used as a combo card like Ghost would, because the 3/3 body on a 4-mana dude never outscales what your opponent's playing, and therefore it's a bad mid-range card. It's a bad aggro card too because it just is. 4-drops are bad in aggro decks unless they already have elusive. I mean, in some elusive aggro decks, the fact that this gives something elusive is pretty weak because you're going to want to give elusive to something that has a bigger body, a 5/5 body, a 6/6 body, and you're only playing this. That means you're not playing this on turn 4. You're having to play this after you've played a Cythria or a Moose turn 5 or turn 6. And that overall is just so weak. Like, because you're having to either save it in hand, that's a ghost that costs 3 extra mana and gives you a body that doesn't matter because you're trying to win that turn. Or it's a turn 4 play that's just a 3 mana body, or a 4 mana 3/3 body that gives something elusive. Like, okay, that's a little bit of chip damage, which is great. But elusives already have so many other choices that are just cheaper. Like, Green Glade Duo can become a 4 power dude for being 2 mana. Like, you never want to be playing Fey Guide into that. Which means Fey Guide isn't an elusive card. It's like a combo card. And the fact that we already have Ghost for a combo card like that, or even Sumpworks map, means that this card's bad. Elusives don't need this card because you have to give something elusive, and you're never wanting to give elusive to like a 2/2 or a Zed even. Like, right? I can't think of a single situation where that's good. And if your board already has all elusive, then this guy is just useless. And if you're playing this like you would play Ghost, giving something a big elusive body and trying to attack with it, like I just said, Ghost is better because you can play Ghost the same turn you've actually played that unit if you have spell mana saved up. Fey Guide, you have to wait a turn and you might not even be on the attack token then. And Fey Guide's body in that situation doesn't matter. So this card has a hard time making any sense. And the last card we have is Startup Stomper. Now this is the only Targon card we actually got today. The rest have been Ionia, but this is specifically a Targon card. It's a 2 mana 2/3 Overwhelm. So this reminds me a lot of the Raider, the 3/1 Tough unit. Except this one has 2 power instead of 3 power, but 3 health instead of 2.5 health. And I'm saying 2.5 because that is basically what Tough means, 2.5 health. Tough in a lot of situations is better than 3 health. Well, okay, so Tough in that situation is better than 2 health, but worse than 3 health still. So this card sacrifices the attack for the extra health. The extra half health, if you think about it like that. And despite what it sounds like, this card is much better than the Raider card because the health means that they have to use a Get Excited to kill this, which is 3 mana, discard a card to kill this, or they have to use some other combination of cards like a Static Shock and a Mystic Shot, which is way overcommitting into one card. They have to have a 3/3 to kill this, which is still overcommitting because this already has 2 power. If you're able to support this, like with a Lulu, it gets insane. This reminds me a lot of War Chefs with its stats, but the fact that it already has Overwhelm means that it's going to be a very great vanilla unit. Well, not vanilla, technically, because it has the Overwhelm, but a great unit to play with support cards. It's going to be a great card to play with other support cards. I think it's going to go in a lot of the self-targeting decks, like the gems, because having an overwhelmed body to put things on is great because it means the extra attack is going somewhere. And the fact that it already has a starting health of 3 means it's going to be hard for a lot of decks to remove without overcommitting into this card, which is great value for you, especially because most of the support decks are going to be mid-range decks. And you want to be keeping control of the board by spending mana more efficiently than your opponent, which this card does great. So I think this card's going to be a very decent choice. Anyway, guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. I cannot wait to mess around with Lulu and some mid-range style decks. Anyway, guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.